someone who's inspired you?
Oh, no question on this. It's a personal one, but I'd go for my dad.
Oh.
I mentioned him before in terms of the boxing club I set up. We were really proud that in January this year, the Manchester Council named a road after him in that area of Manchester that we're talking about, in tribute to the legacy of the work that he's done and the impact he's had on so many lives. And I think part of the reason is because obviously growing up with him, I saw the amount of sacrifices and the hard work and the dedication that he invested in it, but how much it mattered to him. And I think he came from incredibly humble beginnings, and I think to have achieved and more the ambitions that he set out for himself, I find it really emotional and quite moving. I mean, he unfortunately he's quite poorly these days, but yeah, I still think even now, so he suffers with dementia, still sort of he's still got that spark about him that just find a real source of inspiration.
It's wonderful because you talk about him in your last book as well, The Winning Mindset, and it's just at the back, and your whole tone changes when you talk about him. It's just straight from the heart, which is beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. He's he's a fascinating guy. So he left school when he was 14, and he couldn't read or write. So he grew up in sort of post-war Catholic Manchester as an illegitimate child. So he was always seen very much as an outsider in his own community and even his own family. And he left school at 14, so basically being illiterate. And just by his own efforts, he set up the boxing gym. He ended up writing a number of books, biographies on some of his heroes. And then, like I say, he took 5 guys to world titles. And then in the Millennium Honours list, he was awarded an MBE.
Oh, wow.
And it was really nice to see, because I think it was the first. It was almost like he'd spent his life as being an outsider, and I think it was the first time he'd ever received any sort of personal acknowledgement for himself. And I remember just seeing the impact that had on him in terms of he felt like he finally arrived somewhere he could be received.
Wow.
So his own life story is a fascinating one, but I love the fact that I remember when I left Unilever, I presented it before as if it was a bit of a no-brainer, but I always say I mentally resigned 18 months before I physically worked up the courage to do it. And I remember sort of drawing on his own example of the fact that he'd sort of set up his boxing club without any sort of backing or any success beneath him as a great source for me. I remember thinking if he could do it, that was a good enough reason that I felt I could back myself and start working for myself.
Wow. He sounds like an incredibly wonderful man, and I'm sure he's incredibly proud of you.